Hi everyone. Well, we are in full-on wind recovery mode. We have had 2 days of really strong Santa Ana winds, and a lot of you guys have asked over on Instagram and even on YouTube how things are going here, if we're okay, and if our garden survived. So I thought we would just do this video and just kind of show you guys around a little bit of the wind aftermath. Winds and fires seem to be a way of life here in Southern California. We've gotten winds every single year since we've moved here. But what's changed over the past few years are the fires. They seem to be bigger, they seem to be a lot more destructive, and hopefully this year won't be quite as bad. But we did have probably 20-mile-an-hour winds for 2 solid days and gusts of 50 to 60 miles an hour. So things aren't looking so good. Now, the video we posted last week, we were all sitting right here with Christy, nice little arranged area, and you can tell the winds just pretty much took everything up and scooched them over, blew all the pillows up off of the furniture, and the leaves are just blowing, were just blowing everywhere. We had to really batten down the umbrellas. And one thing that's crazy about these winds is, and that really helps bring on the fires too, is the humidity level is so low. I think it was 5% for a couple of days, and even today it's only about 5%. So as you can imagine, everything pretty much just turns crispy. So I had some really pretty yellow flowers here, and look at it now. The flowers pretty much completely blew out of the container. The soil is super dry, even though my drip irrigation was still running. And the leaves are just crispy as all get out. So that's one thing we're just pretty much seeing throughout the garden, is just dry, crispy leaves and leaves everywhere. So let's head down to the garden and we'll take a look around. So I do want to say thank you guys to everyone who was checking in on us. We did have a pretty good fire like the town over, but it wasn't threatening where we live. We did have some smoke, but mostly it was the wind that affected us here. So the wind pretty much blew this way, that way for 2 days, and you can see how everything is just kind of leaning over. So for the most part, everything held up pretty well, but all the leaves on these trees right here blew off and into the garden. So pretty much my garden beds are covered in leaves, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's free mulch, and then I don't have to do all the mulching myself. But the big thing that I'm concerned about, that I think I may lose quite a few plants, is just the dryness. The cosmos here, pretty much all of the flowers blew off. And you can see here these cucumbers. Remember when we planted this on the ladder trellis here? Look how crispy these leaves are. I mean, they're just pretty much, I can just pull these right off. A lot of them are just pretty much dried up to a crisp. So we will be going through the garden in the next couple of days and just trimming things up and seeing what we can save and what we're going to have to pull out. This ladder trellis actually held up really well though, so I was really pleased about that. And we've actually got a little cucumber here. So you know what? It's all good. But down in here, guys, my squash that I was growing on this tomato cage just got absolutely beaten up. I mean, look at how shredded the leaves are. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to save this plant or not, but you know what? That's okay. I'm looking forward to actually pulling some of these plants out and then covering the hill with some greens, because it's pretty much shaded now almost all day long. So we'll get some greens planted and it'll be a nice little break. You can see this garden bed looks pretty much toast. Things just got completely battered. The squash is just shredded and blown over. And this tomato arch here, I'm actually kind of disappointed about this. Almost completely blew over. The tomato plant actually doesn't look too bad. So we'll have to see if we can save this plant. I was really excited about this tomato plant climbing up over this arch. So that is a little bit disappointing. Now, one thing I was really happy about was how this super sturdy trellis held up. I mean, this thing did not move. It's not leaning over, it's not falling over. So really happy with how it held up. Even though the cucumber plants, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to pull all of these out. They're just pretty dry and crispy. We were actually gonna film a video today, and I was gonna plant some peas along the base of this trellis. But with all the wind and the cleanup, we decided to postpone that a week so we could get things cleaned up a little bit before we plant peas. I do want to show you something here that I was pretty bummed about. I have some watermelon in here that I planted kind of late in the season, but I was really excited because I had a watermelon that was just about ready to harvest. A really small one, a sugar baby, but it completely blew off in the wind. So I was pretty bummed about that. Here it is, completely split open, and you can see it's totally like rotting and everything. So that's going to be absolutely no good. So I was pretty bummed about that. And I've got a couple other little watermelon here that are coming on. So I don't know if we're going to have enough heat and light for them to mature. We'll have to see about that. And then the scarlet runner beans I had growing on this trellis here are completely done for. These are just crispy and dry. So that's kind of a bummer, but I do have some growing in another spot in the garden, and I can always save the seeds from these. So I'm just trying to look on the bright side of things too. Here on the Smart Pots deck, I don't know, things aren't looking too good here. This basil is just dry and crispy, just lots of damage to these plants. So I'll probably most likely have to start over here, which I did just plant some fall garden backup. So this might be a good spot to expand my fall garden. And back in here, I tried to cover what I could with shade cloth in hopes that that would protect the plants. You can see this shade cloth did absolutely nothing. It completely blew off, even though I had it connected here. But the plants actually didn't do too bad. The Swiss chard is looking pretty good. Maybe took a little bit of a beating, but I think this garden bed will probably recover just fine once it gets cleaned up a little bit. But over here, this shade cloth pretty much did nothing. And there's a lot of leaves stripped from the peppers here. I think they just kind of got tangled up. So you can see it really did a lot of damage to these pepper leaves. They're really shredded. So I may just completely pull these out and then put some cool weather vegetables here. The cool weather vegetables actually held up pretty well. Some cabbage in here. I actually popped this. I had a big tomato plant in here that I popped out and put in some cabbage, and I think this is kohlrabi, and it actually held up pretty well, so I think that might survive too. So remember a few weeks ago we planted our fall garden in here based on your suggestions, so that was great, and I haven't even peeked in here yet since the wind stopped yesterday. So let me just take a peek underneath the shade cloth. I had it covered because the temperatures were up in the high 80s, and I was trying to hopefully get this garden bed to survive in the heat. And it actually looks like it took more of a beating from bugs than anything else. Definitely have got myself a cabbage looper problem. So the plants actually all in all look pretty good except for the bug holes. So I think this garden bed may come back too. And I think, Jerry, you can tell me what you think from back there behind the camera, but it does look like the garden arch is kind of leaning a little bit.
Yeah.
So we might have to do a little bit of shoring up for the next windstorm.
It's definitely looser than I remember it being.
Yeah, definitely. And then the scarlet runner beans over here, though, it looks like they did beautifully. Some leaves are shredded, but I think these scarlet runner beans are going to make a good comeback too. I did come out here like the day before and kind of tie up some of the plants. I tied up the zinnias right here to kind of help, you know, help them stay a little bit more stable, and that actually I think really helped. So they look really good. Well, you guys know how I love using shredded leaves on my garden beds for mulch. So I feel like in a way I kind of just hit the jackpot, because look at all these leaves here. They're super dry. It won't take much just to shred them up. So I'll be collecting those and then spreading them over my garden beds as I replant things. Now our little living wall here, man, it was just blowing around like crazy, and you can see this is where all the leaves are coming from, because a lot of the trees are kind of stripped of their leaves. But the good thing about these trees, these are called Japanese privets. They're super, super fast growing, so I don't have any doubts that they'll be filling out again in no time. Now over here to the pepper planter, just really got toasted and dried out. So you can see a lot of the red and the white profusion zinnias just got so dried out from the wind and the super low humidity. I actually filmed a video on all these peppers last week, which I'm really glad I did it before the wind hit, and that'll be airing this Wednesday. But a lot of the leaves got stripped off the peppers too. But all in all, I think the peppers actually survived the best here in the fountain planter area. Now, if you follow me over on Instagram, you know that I've grown okra for the first time, and I'm really, really trying to like it, but it's just not my favorite vegetable in the world. It pretty much got taken out by the windstorm here. You can see I've let this okra grow super big, I'm going to trim this back, and I don't know if it comes back or not. So those of you that grow okra can let me know if it'll grow back once I cut it off. But we'll try this again next year. So overhead here is a perfect example. We have one of our super scoopers that just fought the fire so well, flying overhead. We are just so thankful for the firefighters who worked so hard to really knock the fires down quickly this time. This part of our yard just got completely battered by the winds. All the patio furniture blew over. Thankfully, we didn't lose any trees, but there's just tons of leaves everywhere. And I did actually lay that umbrella down because we didn't want it getting blown completely away. That's what I use for my live streams. But mainly, it's just the dryness of everything. I think that's the thing that strikes me the most is I'm gonna have to take out a lot of the plants just because the leaves are just shot and dry. So the strawberry towers I actually tried to cover, but the covers just blew off. But here, let's just take a peek under here. I did have some flowers coming on last week. Looks like I still got a couple berries and a couple flowers, so looks like it worked for this one anyway. Here's my eggplant. Pretty much got shredded. I have a couple of flowers. I was hoping to get a few more eggplants out of it. So I'm just going to trim these leaves off, give it a good fertilizer, and hope for the best on this one too. Now, just to give you an idea of how strong the winds were, these are two of our patio furniture cushions that blew from all the way up on the deck, that black couch right up there, and blew all the way down here, all the way down the stairs until they stopped here by the fence. So these winds were ferocious. Now I'm actually really bummed about this whole area. These peppers were looking beautiful just about a week ago. Still have some peppers on here, but the leaves are shredded and just looking pretty ratty. So I'm hoping that these will come back. We'll just have to see. Little tiny peppers coming on. Thought I saw some purple peppers in here. There we go. So we'll hope for the best with these too. It's pretty much just leaves everywhere. So we definitely have our work cut out for us. So up here is where I do actually a lot of my YouTube live streams when it's really hot out, because it's easy just to come out here right from the back door and set up. And this is all from the wind, you guys. Everything just blew this way up here. It's just crazy. Remember the radishes I did like a week ago? They're right under here. Let's check them out. I haven't looked at them yet. So you can see things are just absolutely toasted. Oh wow, they actually look pretty good. I'm very happy about that. I know this is a little bit of a different video. Usually you see my garden looking pretty good, but you know what? Just keeping it real here. Things are an absolute mess, and I will be working hard this week to get things cleaned up. So stay tuned for that how to grow peas video. Hopefully next weekend we'll get to that. And I am running a sale this weekend on my website. I'd planned to do it in conjunction with that pea video, but we're gonna let that sale run anyway. It's 30% off all my seed collections and my CaliChem Smart Pots with the code CaliChem. Well, if you live here in Southern California, we would love to hear how your garden and how you survived the Santa Ana windstorms of the past couple of days. And if you're one of the fire affected areas, please let us know that as well. We would love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video.